Well, Shilen, time has certainly flown. It's 12 months since you became chairman of West Bromwich Albion. Are you happy with the overall progress the club has made in that time?
It's really, really hard to believe that it's been 12 months and so much has happened during that time. I think first and foremost, I want to just share my appreciation for everybody at the club behind the scenes, because I think their desire to see things improve at the club and to see progress at the club is so evident in all of the work that we do together. And I think I'm really fortunate to have a great group of folks at the club who are helping us drive this progress. I'm also really grateful to the fans, because they've been so supportive of all of the changes that we're trying to make, and have really shown me and the whole club great support during this time. I feel like we've accomplished a lot in the last 12 months. I think there's a whole lot more to do, but I think that it's evident, I think, in the decisions that we've made, the progress that's been made, that we are a club now that has improved competitively, financially, operationally, and most importantly, that we're acting in accordance with a long-term plan.
Is owning a football club everything that you expected it to be, or are there things that have taken you by surprise?
I mean, I think there's always surprises. This has been a dream of mine, and I've been just so grateful for every day, whether it's ups or downs going into it. But I think in terms of what surprised me, I think it's been a pleasant surprise to learn just how much this club means to the fans, to the community, not just as a football club, but as an institution. I think the other thing that's probably been really surprising to me is just the competitiveness of the championship, the league that we're in and the league that we're trying to conquer. The standard of play has been really impressive to me. And I think in particular, when you add in the challenges of the financial advantage that the parachute clubs have, you can understand really why promotion is such a rarefied air and such a challenging goal.
What has been your favourite moment of the last 12 months?
I think even though it didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, the semifinals, the playoffs was really an incredible experience, particularly the lead up to our match at the Hawthorns. I think you could really see and sense the desire, the anticipation, the energy, the positivity of the fans, and I think it gave a great sense for the potential that we have as a club, what the Hawthorns can be when everybody is excited and energized and believing. And I really hope that we repeat that experience with a better result this time around. But it was incredible to see the fans, the whole atmosphere, everything around the club as we were standing on the doorstep of the goal that we hold for promotion.
What are some of the most important things that you've learned?
I think one important lesson has been that, whatever goals that you have as a club, just understanding how many stakeholders are involved. It's not just you as a club and what you would like to do. There's the league as stakeholders, there's the other clubs, there's players, there's fans. And so I think just understanding, just very holistically, that we're part of a much larger organism. And so while we can have certain goals, expectations, ideas, that we need to make sure that all of those are in balance with the larger environment that we operate in, which is the league, the pyramid, the players, the fans.
When you compare where the club was 12 months ago, Shilen, to where it is now, how much more of a stronger position do you believe it's in?
I mean, I think from when you look back exactly 12 months ago, it was hard for the club to be in a worse position than it was in. I think that from a financial standpoint, obviously, I think that was well talked about. But I think just in terms of the runway that the club had, the means to improve itself on a self-sustaining basis, that just wasn't there. I think the club was very worried about the next week, the next month, and not the next year, the next 5 years. And so I think simply having the freedom to plan over the long term has been a huge step forward for the club. More specifically, we've made a lot of improvements to the financial outlook of the club. And critically, I think when you look at one of the most important assets that the club has, it's the squad. And I think that we've done a lot of great work with the squad. We have a squad now that has a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and to both carry us forward competitively, but also to sustain us financially.
I think it's fair to say one of the biggest moments of your ownership so far has been the managerial change over the winter period, Carlos Corberán departing for Valencia and Tony Mowbray coming back to the club for a second spell. How do you reflect on that period?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that at the time of Carlos's departure, he was the second longest tenured coach in the championship. And I think what that says is that a club always needs to be ready to be at this crossroads, because you just never know when these things are going to come up. I think that we as a club were very prepared. Our sporting department, with Andrew and Ian running a very rigorous process, gave us a great group of candidates to choose from. We had a very clear idea of what we wanted from our coach, both in terms of how they fit into the broader structure of the club, as well as what we were looking for tactically, strategically, in terms of how they relate to the players and what the expectations are relative to the squad. I think in the end, we made a fantastic choice with Tony. He's somebody that you can tell cares personally about the players, who understands what the club means to the fans, and who understands what the fans add when the club is playing a very positive type of football. And so I'm very excited about where we ended up. I think that we always have to understand that the realities of this league are that we need to be ready to make these decisions, to take these decisions. But I think that I'm very excited about where we are with Tony and what he can bring to the club.
There have been 2 transfer windows over the last 12 months. We've had plenty of new arrivals, but plenty of departures as well for a whole host of reasons. How would you assess our 2 transfer windows?
I think we've done a really good job, in fact, probably better than I would have projected in terms of progressing towards our long-term goals. And we understand there's a couple of goals with the squad. One is obviously to build a squad with a younger average age, one that has more peak years and potential ahead of it. The other is that we need to work to solve the financial challenges and to be compliant with P&S. And I think that on both fronts, the player movement has been very helpful to us. The players who have departed, I think, have helped us in terms of improving our financial outlook. And the players who have come in generally are profiling as players that have a lot of future potential, players who can help carry us forward competitively. And ultimately, we understand that the reality of the championship is that it can be a transition point for a lot of, especially the high-quality players, that they're on their way to Premier League competition, either with us or through a sale to another club. And so I think that we've done a really good job. Andrew and Ian and our scouts and everybody have aligned on the types of players that we need to bring into the building in order to continue our progress. And we've done a really good job of expanding the tools and the resources with which we're finding those players.
It's well known our financial position before you joined the club was precarious. I wonder if you could offer supporters an update on where the club is now financially.
Well, I think ultimately, just by the sake of us being involved, I think that the outlook is stabilized, that the club is no longer worried about the things that it was worried about a year ago in terms of how are we going to make it to the next season or the next month. We understood, and I understood, that there were massive losses projected and that the cost of acquiring the club was just one of the costs of getting the club back to steady footing. So in that regard, the losses are within the range that was projected, that was anticipated. We are probably doing better in some categories, but ultimately we're within our plan, and thankfully the club is on a stable long-term footing.
The football club's accounts for the year ended 30th of June 2024 have now been released, detailing a £34 million loss. What reassurance can you provide to fans concerned by that number, Shilen?
Firstly, it's important to recognize the time period that these accounts cover, which is through June of 2024. So from the time of my takeover to the club, subsequent to the January window, there was not a lot of opportunity for us to make substantial changes to the trajectory that the club was on. Additionally, I think that the losses are don't exactly equate to P&S losses. So there are some differences, there are add backs, there's other elements that don't factor into P&S. And we've been working very hard to make sure that we identify every possible add back in order to be able to kind of maximize our P&S position. In the future years and in the coming year, in the coming year of accounts, we're probably also going to be facing some heavy losses. But again, these are losses that we've had the opportunity to mitigate through player trading, through revenue generation, and through better management of accounts. And so we are unfortunately going to be looking at another year of losses in the 24-25 season, but all of this is within the projected range, and all of this is within now an attainable gap in terms of addressing P&S. We'll need to continue to be savvy about player trading, revenue generation, and a lot of other aspects in order to be able to navigate the coming year. But I think with a little bit more clarity around the system under which we're going to be running the 25-26 season, we can begin to plan more effectively what our strategies are going to be around P&S.
Shilen, the club were delighted to announce recently the introduction of safe standing at the Hawthorns for the start of the 2025-26 season. How great is that for West Bromwich Albion, and what can you tell us about it?
I'm really excited about the fact that the club is going to be introducing safe standing in the Upper Smethwick and in the Millennium Corner. I think it's been a big part of the conversation with fans and fan groups that this is something that is desired. And we're going to try to find the right balance to build atmosphere and give people options. So we'll start with a portion of the stadium, and we'll see how that goes as we make future plans. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the addition of safe standing means to our atmosphere and to the fan experience at the Hawthorns.
There will be supporters who have sat in the Bromwich Road end for years that will be wondering whether that stand might be safe standing as well. Is there anything more that you can tell us on that?
I think we're going to progress on a season-by-season basis, and we'll take feedback on the early experiment of converting some of the seats to safe standing, and then we'll decide whether and how much to expand that option. It's something that many fans want, but not every fan wants, so we'll try to find the right balance to make sure that people can access the type of seating and the type of experience that they want.
An independent football regulator is still expected to be implemented. What changes are you considering to ensure we meet its requirements?
Well, I think first of all, we're very excited to see the introduction of the football regulator. I think that it's not always easy to work amongst leagues to find the right balance and kind of a fair distribution. And so we look forward to what the football regulator will mean in terms of establishing a more balanced and sustainable pyramid for football. And I think that that's important for fans all over the country, not just for West Bromwich Albion. Beyond that, I think that the football regulator is going to be bringing mandates around fan engagement and the relationship that we have with the fan. I believe that we as a club have been very proactive in that regard, and in terms of having a bridge between fan groups and us as a club, and that will continue. We will be establishing the necessary advisory boards and mechanisms to make sure that the relationship that we have with the fans meets or exceeds the standards put out by the regulator.
I would just like to ask you, Shilen, about the women's team. They had an incredible run in the Adobe Women's FA Cup, got through to round 4, played the current holders, Manchester United. An incredible experience for the team. How keen are you to put plans in place to make sure that the women's team keep progressing and evolving?
I'm really proud of the progress that our women's team has made and what they've accomplished with really fairly limited resources up to now. And I think it's been a conversation within our sporting organization and within the club as a whole, what we can do to support the women's team better. And first and foremost, we made a change to Chev's role, and she is going to be taking on a broader mandate rather than simply being the women's first team coach. And alongside that, I think we're trying to bring more support from our sporting organization and from other aspects of the club into play for the women's team. And so we are really looking forward to exploring a lot of avenues of improvement, just in terms of some of the basic things that we could be doing better to support our athletes, some of the things that we can do to make the matches more accessible to fans, including location and things like that. And we would love to see a long-term goal of, just as we want to progress upwards with the men's team, we'd love to have a long-term goal. The league that we're in is a hard one to get out of. There's only one spot available for promotion every year. But I think that we want to make sure that our women have the opportunity to be as competitive as they can be within the context of what the club can do.
The academy is another important part of West Bromwich Albion. How involved with the academy have you been over the last 12 months, and what further improvements would you like to implement?
The Academy's been a great resource. I think when you look at the players across world football who began their sporting life at West Bromwich Albion, it says volumes about the potential of the players that we have in the Academy and the potential of the Academy itself to produce superb players. There's been a lot of conversations around the Academy and what we can do to create more integration between the Academy and the men's first team, so that our young players see a much clearer pathway. We see the Academy as a big resource, and we believe that there's going to be there's already multiple players from our Academy that are represented in the squad today, and we see that as a trend that will continue. I think the development of young players is really important to us, not just from a competitive standpoint, but we think it's just one of the important things that a football club does. And whether they end up being world-class athletes or succeeding in other areas of life, I think it's important that we give these young people a great platform to move forward in their lives.
You spoke in great detail, Shilen, in your first interview 12 months ago about your love and admiration for philanthropy. You will have seen the fantastic work that the Albion Foundation carry out in the local community. How impressed with them have you been, and what further changes would you like to implement there?
I think the Albion Foundation is doing incredible work, and I think that there was really, even when I sat down with you a year ago, I wasn't really fully appreciative of the depth of work and how significant they are within the community. I think it's been incredible to see everybody at the foundation do really good work. We have an outstanding board that's very engaged, and I think that there is a tremendous amount of need that we see in the West Bromwich, Sandwell, Black Country, and West Midlands area. And it's been impressive to me to see how much of a role the club and the foundation play in addressing those needs. We are looking at a lot of things that we want to do to tie the club and the foundation closer together, to be able to kind of share resources. And we also think that there's a lot more that can be done in terms of just telling the story of the foundation. I think the work that's being done is excellent, and I think that there needs to be more said and shown about it, and we look forward to doing that. We also believe that within the foundation, we have some really fantastic outcomes with our disability teams and power chair, blind football, some of these things. And I probably never really appreciated until I got deeper into the foundation the excellence that we've been able to achieve there and what that means to the athletes that are a part of it.
Just finally, Shilen, there are so many positive things happening at West Bromwich Albion, both on the pitch and off it. In your opinion, what are the next big steps for the club to take now?
Well, just as when we sat here 12 months ago, our goal remains to be at the top of the championship until we can break through to the Premier League, and I think we continue to be on track to do that. I think that is a transformative outcome, and so many more doors open once you've achieved that. I think in the interim, there's a lot of things that we can do to improve competitively, experientially, financially. And so we continue to work through a program of change management throughout the club, just to make every area of the club that we can, to the highest caliber that we can, and really give ourselves the best chance to get to our ultimate goal, which is that return to the Premier League.